Hello, and welcome to another episode of My Two Cents. Today's topic is fundamental magnitudinal force, aka time. I'm going to go over a few vocabulary words, again, not too many, just to get a foundation of what I'll be speaking on. What I'll be trying to cover today in this topic is time, which is a very difficult concept for me to wrap my head around. I'm going to be speaking on terms such as past, present, future, rewind, fast forward, slow, stop, skip, repeat, the mind concept for time, which is remember, observe the present, imagine the future, time, and temporal as words. I'm going to use time to describe the asset concept that is time, and I'm going to use the word or the term temporal as a self-evident concept of time, because hopefully when we're done speaking today, we'll have a better understanding of what time is. A few questions I'm going to try to answer to keep myself focused and give myself a logical direction is: what is time? What is space-time? I have a thought experiment for you guys, and how to time travel through infinite infinity. I'm also going to cover the basic concepts or the basic fundamental abstract concepts on a time machine. My 2 cents on a time machine, so to speak. So, like the other video, I'm going to separate this video from the next video so if you don't want to listen to the actual definitions themselves, you can just skip from here and go straight to the next video. So the 4 definitions that you should need to familiarize yourself with if you're still watching is time, measurement, magnitude, and force. Because as I've described before, I subscribe to the idea of time as being a magnitudinal force, not necessarily... Well, let me just go into the definitions and then I'll get into that later. The first one is time, and these are Wikipedia terms. All of the terms that I've used, you can follow along using Wikipedia as a source of reference for information that we both have access to. Time is a part of the measuring system used to sequence events, to compare the duration of events, and to intervals between them, and to quantify rates of change such as motions of objects. Time has been a major subject of religion, philosophy, and science, but defining it in a non-controversial manner applies to a field of study has constantly eluded the greatest scholars. Measurement. Measurement is the process of determining the magnitude of quantity, such as length or mass, relative to a unit of measurement, such as a meter or a kilometer. Magnitude in mathematics. The magnitude of a mathematical object is its size, a property by which it can be compared as large or smaller than other objects of the same kind. In technical terms, in ordering or ranking of these classes of objects in which it belongs. It also can be termed as a numerical value of that unit or class which it belongs, which is important. Remember that, a numerical value of that unit or class which it belongs. And then finally, force. In physics, a force is an influence that causes a free body to undergo a change in speed, a change in direction, or a change in shape. Force can also be described by intuitive concepts such as a pull or push that can cause an object with mass to change its velocity, which includes to being moved from a state of rest, i.e. to accelerate, or which can cause a flexible object to deform. A force has both a magnitude and direction, making it a vector quantity. Okay. Well, welcome back. So far we've covered time, measurement, magnitude, and force. And when I spoke on magnitude, magnitude was described as a numerical value. What's important about magnitude as it applies to time is location. When you're traveling, time as a fourth dimensional concept basically is the progression of events. We use time as a way of describing events. Like, I'm creating a video recording of me speaking about time and you're watching it. The camera is recording the event that is taking place through time. Once I upload this video to YouTube, you guys will be able to watch it over and over again as often as you want, as a record of the time, space that I took up in my present, which is now your guys' past. Before I even started this video, I had plans on doing this video, and I imagined myself doing this video a little bit better actually. But the point is in the past, before this video was created as a present, I could visualize myself doing this video in the future. That's a concept, that's an abstract concept of time, which is why I had you look up memory, you know, imagination, and observation of the present. Now, let's get to the first question real quick. What is time? As I said, time is a magnitudinal force. And as Wikipedia has pointed out, some of the greatest scholars have been trying to deal with this, and I see why. It is very difficult to logically speak on time because there's too many abstract words in our language that help to describe time but do it very poorly, one of them being space-time. Space-time is a very good example of the misdirection of time. And I know you're probably like, that doesn't make any sense. How can you say science community loves space-time? They use it all the time, but space-time is actually a very bad description for time because there's no real such thing as space-time. Space-time isn't self-evident. It's an abstract concept of the mind. Space-time is self-evident for the mind only. It's not an actual observable phenomenon in our universe. You can't observe space-time because time as a location, when involved with special relativity, time doesn't exist on that level. Time for us is, as science is about observing and repeatability. You can't observe the flow of time. You can't measure the flow of time. You can measure the abstract concept that is time, but you can't measure time. I can pull a ruler out and I can measure this physical board, but I can't pull the ruler out and measure time. I can't take a clock and physically see the progression of the events that are time. I can't pause time relative to myself, speed time up relative to myself, and skip time relative to myself. I can't say I want to see how this video turned out and move instantly into the future and view this video and agree or disagree with the context of the video, because time is an abstract concept of the conditions that is the magnitudinal force. Forces allow things to take place. For instance, we move based on the magnitudinal force associated with motion. Motion doesn't exist, but the things that move around are best described as being in motion. That doesn't make motion a physical element of our existence. It's just an actual property of our existence. And it's important to separate the two if you want to logically look at of our reality. You have to be able to distinguish between what is tangible evidence and what is a belief. And that is what infinite infinity is about. Infinite infinity is about helping individuals like myself and yourself, if you choose to utilize what I'm explaining, in a way of understanding what is tangible, what is not tangible, what is abstract, what is not abstract, and what levels of abstraction should be used in a relative, special relative manner to better understand the universe that you live in, because your understanding of the universe is more important than your ability to explain the universe to someone else. That's what knowledge is about. I have a lot of information in my head that you probably wouldn't agree with. My ability to get you to understand what it is that I'm saying is what knowledge and intelligence and education is about. But it's more important that you understand what you think than it is for you to be able to explain your thinking to someone else. And that is what I hope to address with Infinite Infinity. The world, the universe that I live in my own mind, is a very elegant and beautiful universe. It is in harmony with science, religion, philosophy, everything. But when I speak on my universe with other people, what I realize is other people's universes aren't as stable as mine, and I run into a lot of conflict. So this is where I always stay focused. Sorry, I'm off topic. Back to time. When it comes to the actual abstract concept of time and time travel, the question is always, is time travel possible? The answer to that question is yes. Time travel is very possible. Keeping in mind all the things that I just previously said, and trying to stay focused on just this topic, I can expand later, but I need to create a foundation. The reason why time travel is possible is because we time travel every day. Time travel is the measurement of events and the change of those events. And what I mean is, my hands are moving around through time because they're physically changing their location in space, but they can't physically change their location in space without time. And that's what time travel is. That's what time is. If I sit still, relative to the fact that you can never truly be still, even in the state of rest, I'm still moving forward through time. If I was to stop moving through time, I would vanish in front of the camera, because my location in time would be stationary relative to the normal progression of time. What I mean is this: if you're standing next to a vehicle and the vehicle accelerates away from you, the vehicle is moving in through space away from you, and you're stationary. The same premise can be applied to time. If two objects are stationary in space, but one object moves away from another object in time, relative to each other, they would vanish. Because relative to object A, for instance, my two hands are in space-time. This hand is going to move through time, so it's going too close. This hand isn't moving through time, so relative to this hand, it's gone. Because they were here, and then one event later, it's gone. It still occupies the past space-time location, but it doesn't occupy the future space-time location. This is the abstract concept of time. This is the magnitudinal force of time, because the magnitudinal force of time is what allows you to constantly exist. When you're in your house playing a Nintendo 64 or watching, rap videos or playing, Wii Sports, the reason why you're able to do this in a logical manner is because of the stability of our universe. The magnitudinal force of time is constant. That's why we describe it as infinite, because the forces of our universe are constantly working on us all the time. If you think about objects in rest and objects in motion, just imagine what would happen if time wasn't a stable continuum, that it had fluctuations, that things could accelerate forward through time faster than other things, or objects could slow down through time relative to other things. You would start to realize how elegant the universe truly is, because everything in the universe moves at a steady rate of time. Everything moves at the same, basically, the analogy of everybody dances to their own beat. Everyone moves at the rhythm of their own beat or something like that. Well, the universe doesn't do that. The universe moves at the same universal rhythm that is time, which is the magnitude force of time. And yeah, I'm speaking in circles, so let's see if I can fix that. Like I said, this is very difficult to pin down. So we've established a basic foundation of what time is. We know that time travel is possible because we move logically through time all the time. Sorry. I'll jump right into this thought experiment that I have to better create a stable foundation for time travel. And I can't really take credit for this thought experiment except for the fifth dimensional part, which I added myself based on information that I obtained from my cousin. The thought experiment itself has been used in several different sci-fi shows that you've probably seen yourself on the History Channel or on Nova, etc. And it goes something like this. There's 3 dimensions of spatial geometry, which I've gone over in Fundamental Distance of Geometry. Check it out. And then there's a 4th dimension of the abstract concept, which is time. In our existence, we move through length, width, and depth, which is geometric volume. We move through space. We're able to move through space through time, and there's a thought experiment that I've come across that helps you understand this concept, and it goes like this. You know that there's 3 dimensions in our universe. So there's length, width, there's, length, width, and then depth or height. So you can use those coordinates allow you to define a location in space. So what I'm going to do is say this. If you go to let's say we go to McDonald's, we can describe the address of the McDonald's as its geographical location, its length, its width, and its depth relative to the planet Earth and its physical location on the Earth. Because an address can be thought of, relatively speaking, as a dimensional coordinate. If you gave me your address, even though I've never been to your home or your location, I can reliably, using scientifically repeatable and observable measurements, which we've described as maps and GPS, etc., I can logically progress to your location with 100% accuracy. I can find you. So in the same way, we can say that an address to a location can be also described as its length, width, and depth, location in space. I can give, if I gave someone the name of our universe, the location of our solar system, the location of the planet Earth, and the actual address, and they had enough information to understand how we navigate, they could literally come from the Andromeda Galaxy straight to your home. You probably wouldn't want them to, but they could. That, realistically speaking, relatively speaking, you can give an extraterrestrial coordinates on that level. You can literally give a person the ability to find you on a planet Earth on a universal scale. You can create a universal map for navigating, so to speak. So we've got the space-time down. So you and I, we're going to meet at McDonald's. This is what we're going to do. We're going to meet at McDonald's. I'm going to pick a location, and I'm going to give you the address of this McDonald's, and you're going to meet me there. So what happens is you show up to the McDonald's, and I'm not there. And the question you ask yourself is, well, where is Paul Emerson? He was supposed to be giving me his 2 cents on time. He's not here. Well, the reason why I'm not there is because I forgot to give you the 4th dimensional coordinate, which is time. That's why the 4th dimensional coordinate as an abstract concept is used in that manner, because I have to give you a time. I have to say, I'll meet you at this McDonald's at 4 p.m. If you get there at 3 p.m. and I get there at 5 p.m. and you leave at 4:45, I will miss you because we're not occupying the same space-time. That is what the abstract concept of space-time is. So I say, meet me at McDonald's at this location, at this address, and you arrive, I'm not there, you leave. 10 minutes later, I arrive, you're not there, I leave. We call each other up like, hey, what's going on? You know, we were supposed to meet. We missed each other because we didn't set the 4th dimension, which is time. That is the reason why in science and mathematics, time is described as the 4th dimension, because it's when you're using relativity and you're trying to explain or create an event or measure something, you have to account for time, because time works on objects through space as a force. The objects in motion, etc., all do that through time. You can't just ignore it. So you have to account for it. The way we account for it is we describe time as a 4th dimensional abstract concept. Time is best described as a magnitudinal force that is applied to objects, that is best measured as the abstract concept of the 4th dimensional time. That is the best and most elegant way that I can describe time without going through a whole bunch of different loops and hoops, which I'm going to continue anyway. So hopefully it's at least halfway entertaining to you. Now, there's another concept, which is my 2 cents. Well, it's technically my cousin's 2 cents, but I've subscribed to it every day, which is the 5th dimension, which is change, which I won't go too deep into because I want to do another video specifically on change as a universal force of nature, because I believe change is an actual physical force of our universe. The way this works, the way the 5th dimensional force works is this. We already have established that the address is a location. We've also established that the 4th dimension as an abstract concept is time, is also able to be used as a location. Now the 5th dimensional force's change can also be applied to this equation in this same thought experiment. And the way this works is like this. You and I are going to meet at the same McDonald's again. I'm going to change the rules a little bit, and we're going to meet on top of a roof. Now the reason why we're meeting on top of the roof is so that we can change our physical location in 3-dimensional space. Also, when we met at McDonald's the first time, we met on the ground level of the planet, of the actual store. I'm giving you another location now. Now we're going to be on the 2nd level of the store, which is a whole other dimensional coordinate in space. It's basically changing the actual Z location, which is the height. Instead of the Z location of height being 0, now it's the 2nd floor. Or instead of it being the 1st floor, it's the 2nd floor. So the address is the same, the location is the same, but the actual Z location on the Cartesian plane has changed relative to the location of the X and the location of the Y, which is why I threw that in there to help expand on the understanding of fundamental geometric volume. Now we're still going to meet at the same time, except I'm going to add some years. We're going to meet 10 years from the previous time on whatever month, January 16th at 6:45 p.m. 10 years from the other day. So we get to this location, we're on top of the roof, but what we observe is the McDonald's is no longer McDonald's. The McDonald's is now a Burger King. Whatever events took place from the last time we met at the McDonald's when we missed each other to this new event, the physical building has changed from a McDonald's to a Burger King. Logically, the building was torn down and rebuilt by a construction crew or whatever, but as an abstract concept, the McDonald's changed from its actual self-evident McDonald's